Watching something? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay, or should I go get my AirPods?
You're muted. Must be.
No.
I can't hear you.
Okay, 1 minute then. I'm not muted. I'm gonna go get something. Oh, they're right here. Okay, can you hear me? No? You're sure that your volume's up on your computer?
I gotcha. I can hear you now.
Okay, was it okay?
I don't know. I had it set to my headphones. The microphone must work, but not the speaker. Weird.
Yeah. All right, before Peter gets on, do you want to do your qualifying conversation, or how did it go? Have you done some?
I have not done any with anybody yet. No. But I can try it if you want to do it.
Is it just busy with other things?
Yeah. I actually just got an offer accepted. So my third one on a 497.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
So yeah, and I thought I was going to write another one on one of your new construction this week, but they're financing. They've got a few things to get straightened out. They met with Anna, and they've got to get a couple kinks worked out. So they got to get their taxes done. They own their own business, and they just need to show some more income.
Oh, yep. So just need to find motivation. I've been there myself.
Right. Yep. So, but anyway, just been busy with that. So I haven't, but I did talk with Brianna about making a plan for doing, going out through my neighborhood and stuff. So pull some stuff together, and so I can kind of do that once the weather turns, and then start working on getting through all my family and friends and all that, and kind of get all, get those easy ones out of the way and get the practice in, and then start with the real ones. So
that's awesome, though. It is, and you're the only one. And I know your list is smaller, but you're the only one who got a compliment on your leads and your, where you're at as far as working them and notes and so that's awesome. And if you can keep that going as it gets bigger, that's huge.
Yeah, I wasn't sure when he sent that. I thought maybe I was misunderstanding that there was something I was doing wrong. So I sent him a message back. I'm like, am I doing something? Just the way he wrote it, he said good job in the end, but I missed. I wasn't sure if he said as we go about tracking our leads better. So I thought maybe I was doing something wrong, but it's easy when, like I said, when I do have less, I'm sure, but hopefully just doing it right from the beginning and keeping up on it will,
build a good habit. And I also think sometimes, I and Marsha was like you, where I was an assistant for 3 years before I was in sales. And that really helps you build those habits, because when you're organizing an agent's business, you have those skill sets then to do yours, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
She's got a Remax hat on today. Okay. Well, let's give it a go and see how it goes.
Do my RP? Is that where we want to go? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make the phone ring.
Okay. Ring.
Hello.
Hey, Beth.
Hey.
Hey, Beth. This is Matt from the Enclave team at Remax, Matt Euland. How you doing today?
Hey, Matt. Good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, is now a bad time? Well, I just wondering if you got like 5 minutes for a quick business conversation.
Sure. What's up?
Okay. Well, really wondering if you or someone you knew is going to buy or sell in the future, do you have someone you go to, an agent that you'd definitely call?
No, we don't. We like the agent we bought our house from years ago, but no.
Okay. Well, in that case, if you don't, I guess the reason for my call is I'd really just like a chance to maybe show you what we do for our clients and have an opportunity to earn your business. So that way, when you are ready to sell, that hopefully you'll give us a call. We can be that guy for you. So.
Okay. Is that like a meeting or? Oh, I lost you. I lost you.
Hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. No, it's not a meeting. Just gonna tell you right now, just a few things that we do for our clients, and if it sounds like a good deal, we'll just plan to stay in touch.
Okay.
One of the first things that we offer our clients is we do kind of a quarterly market update, specific kind of to your neighborhood. Just provides you a little information about your home and market activity, just kind of where things are at. And then once a year, we'll do a specific home value report about your property, just so you have a good idea of what your house is worth. And that way, when you are ready to sell, or if you're thinking about it, you're kind of more informed than the average homeowner out there. You've got all the information on what the market's currently doing, and you can make an informed decision if it's a good time to buy or sell. So most people really like that. If that sounds like something that might be interesting to you, it's just some good information to have.
Sure.
Okay. And then not a lot of other things that we do throughout the year, a few customer appreciation things. For example, we've got a family movie night coming up in, I think it's in April. Sorry, I'm not sure. If I was calling them.
Damn it, Matt! You got to know when the family movie night is.
Yes, I didn't know that before I said that.
I'm not going.
Pull yourself
but there's
together.
one going on.
Okay, but just things like that. So if it works out and you're interested, you can come along. We rent out a movie theater, bring the family. Just kind of a small customer appreciation thing that we do. And then really, we just want to be your go-to for anything real estate related at any time, whether you're thinking of selling or not. If you've got any questions, no matter how small, we want to be a resource for you. We work with lots of great vendors and contractors, so if you ever need a referral, things like that, we can help you with. Or if you're looking, deciding about doing a home improvement project, we can help you decide if it's a good investment. And then the only other thing is, once in a while we get some different offers from some of our vendors that we'll pass along to you. Usually they're home improvement related offers, things like that. So that's really it. I'm just wondering if that sounds like something that would be interesting to you, and you'd let me stay in touch this way. Maybe reach out to you 3-4 times a year and just see how things are going, and that way, like I said, have a chance to earn your business. And when you do sell, you'll give us a call.
Okay, sure.
Sounds good. Let me confirm I got your information here right, and plan to hear from me maybe 3-4 months. I'll check in and just see how it's all going, and maybe we'll invite you to that movie night if you want to bring the family and bring the kids up. I think this year they're going to watch a new Mulan movie, so it's going to be a good one. So
Okay, sounds
cool.
good.
All right.
How did it feel?
I feel like I still stumbled again. When I was practicing at home and doing it with my wife, I feel like I was more clean, but I tend to talk too much sometimes, say more words than I need to get the point. So.
Petra, feedback?
I think it sounded good. I mean, I think a lot of us have a lot of filler language, and if it's too much, I think we hear it in other people, but I think that when it's here and there, it just blends into what people are used to hearing. And
yeah. They don't have any expectations going in, right? They don't know what they're
they're
expecting.
just like,
they're not listening to critique it.
Yeah.
Right.
what's this conversation about? Okay, no, I think I
Right.
know.
Right. But I still feel like I could clean it up more. I don't want to turn them off, and I could be more. I think I didn't explain as clearly as I'd like to. Some of the things, obviously, knowing what day movie day is, and what month it's in, if I'm going to say that sort of thing to them.
Oh, I've done that and not
Yeah.
known. Yeah, I think it's just boiling it down to something that's really simple and understandable. One of the things that's really hard, but really is true, is to try as hard as you can when you start these, especially with your family, not to start with "How are you?" Because then
No, I knew that,
just,
and that's every time I practice. I haven't said that, and then that's the first thing I
you
said.
do. Yep, and that's okay, and that's what's going to happen when you get on the phone, because you're nervous, because it
Yeah.
just feels like, oh, this is weird. Okay, how are you? Like, oh,
Yep.
no, shoot, but you'll get it.
Yep.
And then I think it is just like really thinking about, okay, if I'm calling them, like, what's the one thing or two things that you think is really cool that you want your people to like benefit from, and just start with that. And I think it is like a business conversation of, yeah, do you have somebody? And if not, I would love to be the person to earn that. And let me tell you what it looked like. Basically, I just want to be your go-to, right? Or it's like, I just want to keep you informed, and this is how it looks. And I think people are so overwhelmed that if we can get to the point with our language, I know, like Petra was saying, we have filler language, but the more we can practice and just boil it down to something where it's like simple, where it's like, okay, yeah, why don't you see if you can earn it? I'm in control. And if you send me an email and keep me informed, yeah, I'm cool with that. And just start small. It's a small ask, right? Just like, let's just start here. And then as you build it, as you call them, check in with them, the value of their home, then you can kind of say, how is this going? How's that going? Because I know the qualifying conversation and I know the script, but it just starts to feel like a lot, right? Like, oh, we have events, and it's like, am I joining a cult? Are you selling me something? Like, I had people ask me, like, how much does this cost? It's like, and it's okay to have those too, where it's like, no, it's free. It's just something we do, just to earn business. So, cool. Okay. Petra, let's hear yours.
All right. Past client that I haven't talked to in a couple of years.
I'm a past client you haven't talked to in a couple of years?
You are.
Okay.
Yep. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, Beth. This is Petra Fager with Enclave Team at Remax Results. Is now bedtime?
No.
So the reason I'm calling is I want you in a few minutes to talk about business.
Okay.
So as you know, we sold you your home a couple of years ago, and I think that was a good process for you and that you enjoyed the home. And I'm just wondering, if you were to buy a home again in the future, are we the people that you would call?
Oh, absolutely. I would call you. You're the best. Of course.
Awesome. Well, I feel that way about you too.
Nice.
So I don't know if you've noticed the emails about our events, but I wanted to make sure that those were welcome, if that was something that you still want to receive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sure, we get them. Sometimes I don't have the time to look at them, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind getting them. And once in a while, I really like those, just kind of those market updates. Those are helpful just to know what's going on.
Okay. Well, what about, we're going to be doing this year quarterly community updates, talking about the values in your neighborhood, and then also start doing yearly market updates on your specific home. Is that something that you would still want to receive, or would that be interesting for you?
Absolutely.
Okay. We want you to know that we're still committed to you, and we wanted to provide those things of value to you, but I just wanted to call today and make sure that that was still something you wanted. None of us like unwanted things in our inboxes or our mailboxes.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. No, that's great.
For those quarterly updates and for the yearly update on your home, would you rather get that by email or would you rather get that in the mail?
Oh, email's great.
Okay. Well, like I said, we're still committed to you, and we want to provide you value in both information and experiences. And when the time comes, we're here for you. And if you, in the meantime, have anyone in your circle that needs our help and the same kind of service that we provide, we'd love for you to think of us and connect us.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I always give people your name. I don't know if anyone's called you, but I do always say that you are a great agent and someone that they should call.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, that is all I have for today. Thanks for your time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll be in touch.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, Matt, feedback. Or how did it feel to you, Petra, first? Sorry.
I felt good.
Yeah?
That's obviously a different conversation than when you're talking to a stranger or someone that you haven't had a relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Okay. Matt?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was, natural that way. Maybe a little easier to be natural when you do have some sort of a rapport with them, already, I guess. But she didn't go into everything. Didn't lay it all on there. More probably route that I should go. Less is more. Maybe the first time, just getting them to agree to go along with one thing, and like I said, then you can have those conversations as you follow up with them more, and if they sound like they're interested in, then you can add some of the other things. So thought it was good.
Yeah. And again, I think if you start with something small, it's easy to say yes to, and then it's okay to build on that. Like, even if it's like, yeah, oh, and hey, you know what? You know what else we do? We do some events. We have a family. Would you be interested in that? And then it's like, maybe or no, instead of like, I have to say yes to this whole thing, especially in your situation, Matt, where it's like,
Right.
What all am I saying yes to? You know what I mean?
Nice.
It's like, we had somebody, or we don't have somebody, or I don't know you in this way. So, I think an easy thing is most people, again, do you know kind of what the metrics are in this, for every one or two or three that you have, do you know how many people say yes?
For RP, what you have on the sheet that you gave us, is it 10-1 for relationship portfolio, but the qualifying conversation you have 2-1 or 3-1.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's just either 2 or 3. Sometimes in the beginning, if you set a goal, like I may talk to 3 and I'm going to get 1 for every 3, and you may find that like Petra might get 1 for every 2 that she has. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You could have 10 yeses and then 1 no, but it is really, no, most people, if you ask them, do not have somebody who are keeping them informed about the value of their home, someone that they feel like they can call. Yesterday I just helped some past clients connect with a real estate attorney because they're building a fence around a reservoir and they live in the neighborhood and all the neighbors are upset. So they said, can you help us? And what should we do?
Yep.
Should we hire an attorney? And that's that relationship that you want. Is I'm like,
Right.
Absolutely, I got someone, let me connect you. And then it's just continuing that. So again, most people don't have that. I mean, all the people in the neighborhood, they've got a list so far, and my people called me. So that's just what you want to create. It's just,
Right.
I'm your connector, and I have
Right.
the information. I can answer your questions, and I want you to be informed. If you just start with that, most people do not have that in
Right.
their life.
And I think, like you said, just not making it that they have to agree to it all at one time. Like you can start with one thing, and then well, what about this? I think that be a lot easier for people to so they kind of understand what they're agreeing to first of all, and then like I said, not feeling like they have to agree to everything. Like doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be just one of the things. Just send me the marketing update, and or we'll call you if we got questions or whatever. But,
yeah, like you said, your family and friends will like to support you and want to come to events and do things for you. There are other people where if someone lumped that all in and I just didn't have that relationship with you, I'd probably be more scared because I don't have time and I don't want another obligation. But if it was like, hey, can I just keep you informed? Yeah, I love that. And so I think it just is more comfortable to the ask. And it is when we're in a position of they're the authority. I mean, we're not the authority in this situation relationally, then it's always a small ask is easier to get a yes.
Right. Yep.
And even with Petra, just to go back, like sometimes, like you made a comment, it's really scary to call. If you ask other people on on a team, the calling your past clients, because all of a sudden you really question, like, well, do they like me, or it's been a couple years, and like,
Right.
oh, I haven't really reached out to them. And it's scary to make that call too, to physically ask
Sure.
somebody, like, you said yes once, would you say yes again? You know,
Yeah.
it's not easy.
Yep. I believe it. Yeah.
So, and I'm just giving you forewarning that these will be just as hard as if you don't keep it up. Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Well, yeah. So one of the things, just to review, kind of, is like we said, it's cool because, like, if you had this all 400 people, for example, or Petra, right, 500 people, technically, according to statistics, and I think it's a little bit worse, but still, like, if it was 10 to 1, even, you know, you could just do that.
Yep.
And if they all said yes to you, you'd be good. Like, you wouldn't
Yeah.
need Zillow or anything. You could just do that, or maybe a little bit more. But
Mhm.
your road to getting that book of business is
Right.
smaller. So, and you know, the internet, again, right at the time when this book was written, it said 12.5 with 2.75 long term, and that's how we get to that 7%. I don't know if those equal 7, but I know at the end of last year was 7 is what it was when you take the 2. So again, other things that we can do, if it's something that, you know, you like, and especially in light of like all the cost of Zillow and how ridiculous it is. I mean, you're paying for convenience, and we talked about this, Matt. You're paying
Yep.
for, like, here it is. But I mean, there's networking, open houses. If you have conversation, you know that you're having success.
Mhm.
I think
Yep.
I'd pay the price of Zillow personally before I'd pick up the phone and start cold calling, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So today, one of the things is, so Matt, you have done, and I know Petra, have you ever, with Marcia, have you ever seen like a buyer consult? Like a one that kind of originated from, I guess, the way that we all kind of do them. Have you done that ever, Petra?
Are you asking me if I've
Like
done a
with
buyer
like the
consult or if I've
enclave
seen
way?
one?
Let's just say like the enclave way. Have you ever done it with Marcia? I know you've done I know you've done tons. I know you've never.
I don't know. I guess I don't know. What's the enclave way?
Yeah, that's what we'll see. But, and I know, Matt, you have, right? And you've gone through
Yeah.
and sat in them and seen different
Yeah.
people. But neither
Yeah.
one of you have seen me, and I'm pretty
No.
much the same, but it's kind of fun. So, all right, buyer presentation. What's the point of it?
To give information and to solidify the relationship through a contract.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So build rapport and build the relationship, right? And gain commitment. And when I taught the class, I taught, you know, just even an hour and a half. So we might do this. One of the things you guys have both had experience is, I think it's changed a little bit, where sometimes I do think it's still always important at whatever point to try to get someone to come in or come into a coffee shop or somewhere to say, you know, I want you to have a great experience. And the way that you're going to have a great experience is just, we just want to sit down, make a plan, go through what it's going to look like making an offer, answer any questions, so that at the end of this, it will be the best possible outcome and experience that you'll have buying a home. Because today you may start, it used to be more common where people had no information, so they would come to the office because they had to come to the office to get information. Well, now it's this, well, I don't really need you. I've got everything. And the perception is everything I have is online, and I just need someone to open the door for me and show me this house. And sometimes they don't even know that if they like the house, that you're the person that can help with that. So it is, sometimes we go out and especially we show a house, and that's where we start by building rapport. And we can kind of, in a worst case scenario, you can have an effective buyer presentation or consult over multiple times. You can do it online like we're doing right now. You can do it over a course of showings, but the best is always just even 30 minutes to an hour, like face to face. We knock it out and we're done. How are both of you, as far as what's your experience in getting people to commit to that upfront? Yeah.
I'd say people
We can't hear you. You must be in a dicey area.
It's really easy to convert into, sorry. They start on the phone call saying they want more information, then I
Yeah.
think it's easy to take the next step as, great, well, the next step is you would come in or we would meet at a coffee shop and I'd go over the process with you. And from there, we'd determine next steps.
Yeah.
But when they get on the phone and what they want is to go see a house,
Yeah.
usually I just agree with that, but then try to do some kind of pre-screening of how much they know over the phone. If it's somebody that's come to me by referral, or if it's below, then I just try to get in front of them in person and then try to move it in that direction from there.
I'd agree with that. Absolutely. Matt, what's your experience been?
Yep. Yeah, I would agree pretty much the same. I know that, I know that I probably have at least one or two people that I've been with that I probably should have, and I've gone over agency relationships, but not asked them to sign yet, that I probably at this point should have had that conversation with them. When our first main goal is to just get in the house with them then and kind of build that rapport. I feel like I've done a good job with that, and I'm new enough that I haven't had lose people yet. Haven't had them go somewhere else because I didn't have that conversation yet. But I know it'll happen, right? Someone will,
Yeah.
And so I feel like I just good practice that I should find a way to approach it a little earlier at times. I mean, so far the times that I've had to, I've written offers, with everyone that I've signed, and it's happened and it's worked out, and it hasn't, it's been easy that way. I mean, I've just been kind of lucky the way that things have gone so far. But being in open houses and stuff and having some of the first conversations that way, the offer that I wrote this weekend, not being overly pushy about it was the reason that the people called me back after they left the open house. They said because they went to another one and another agent tried to get them to sign right there, and he turned them off. And so they called me back as soon as they left, and we ended up writing an offer and getting accepted. I think that there's a happy medium there you have to find, and every customer is different too. Some people are more like Peter kind of said, like they're wanting that information and they're wanting it. So if you can tell that that's where they're going, and some just don't understand the process and how it works. And I did, in this case, I did kind of explain it to them. I said, I went and showed them a couple of houses quickly after my open house before they went to others. And I said, someone else is going to explain or probably going to ask you to sign a buyer agency at some point if it's not me, and I said, I'm happy to help you, and we can have that conversation when the time is right, or once we talk a little more. But I kind of prepared them for that, and that was exactly what happened. Was that someone did ask them right away, and was overly pushy about it. So they were like, "Oh, we really appreciate how you handled it. That you didn't force it on us, but explained it." I think that was a good. I mean, I think that did that one differently than I did the first conversations I was having, where I didn't maybe even approach it. The first conversations, I would just let them walk out the door. And then if I got another chance, then I would maybe talk about it. So I think that starting to work out better, that process, what feels right, to talk to people.
Yeah, I think in starting a successful kind of real estate practice and keeping that going at any point is having kind of rules, just like you would if you had a business, right? It's like Matt Incorporated. So if my rule is, just like you said, that's like asking someone to be married to you. And until that we know we have that rapport, or you've established trust, like, oh, we can trust this guy, like he's going to help us. He's not like slimy. Then you can't ask for that, like the agent did, right? You can't say like, we'll just sign here. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
What do you mean sign here? But have a rule. Like I think most people on the team have a rule where I always said, I'll tell you what, I will go out and show you houses, this one time. Or if I show you this one house, let's go out and look at a few. And if you find after that, we are going to be able to work together and you feel like I'm the person, at that point, I'm going to ask you to sign a representation agreement. So basically at the end of the day, like I know we're working together and I know I'm going to get a paycheck. And I know that might be bold for some people to say, but I think no one can deny you like a paycheck, like,
Right.
and that we're committed. That seems rude to say, like, well, and that's, it puts that weight on them that, like, if you're not doing this, then like pretty much what you're saying to me is like, we may or may not be with you. And everyone agrees with that and everyone seems okay with that. And it's amazing how many times I would forget, because I even if I had a few buyers, I couldn't remember. And they'd be like, oh, do we need to sign that paperwork with you? And I'd be like,
Sure.
oh, yes, I'm
Right.
gonna have someone send it to you today. But it really, really works. And I think it's really fair, right? We don't need to go out multiple times. And then the trick is, if you have that rule for yourself, it prevents you, hopefully, from not going, like, because then it gets awkward. After a certain point, you're like, oh, I've been out like with these guys like 6 times and now it feels weird. Like, we're not making an offer, but yet it's like, hey, by the way,
Right.
remember when I talked about this? Like, I need you to sign this now. It's like, why now? What's going on?
Yep.
And then it feels weird again, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think that you set that expectation up front, you've explained it, and then just said, hey, if we decide that this works, then they're not surprised by it either. It's not weird. Like I said, a lot of times they remember it or bring it up because you've already kind of set that expectation that this is the process. This is how it works.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things, since you guys have seen people, is I think it's kind of fun. Like, we've got, I don't know if you looked at these, like, kind of avatar people. And one of the things is that if you go longer, like, there's all sorts of information in here. Like, for example, we have like Sam and Sherry Savvy. I would be like Sherry Savvy. My husband would be Sam. We're in that 35 to 50-year-old range. We are busy parents. Time is super important. Every night we're running kids to activities. We both have careers. Our family stopped growing. We're not going to have any more kids. Like, they're all in middle school or late elementary, they could be. Most of the time we're experienced. We've bought a home before. Maybe we've sold one even. And I think sometimes too, this is maybe more Rochester specific, but they can be more well educated. And then it just means even in the process, or maybe even just their experience, they want to understand the current market. And that's something that's really important to them. And they may either value an agent because they had a good experience, or they could be skeptical because they did not have a good experience. So they can kind of come in either way. Some may believe that they're smarter than the market, meaning that just because they've done something 1 or 2 times, or they've sold a house before, that they know what to do. And then they may be kind of in that old market or old way of doing things. It depends. And again, this group is probably more transitioning to being in the HGTV generation, like watching it even when you get to 50, right? But if you get outside of 50 a little bit, you may have somebody who completely just thinks it's in the old way, and everything is a shock to them. The amount of paperwork, how long everything is, like the process, just everything that goes into it, staging, you're going to come over. I mean, it just is not the way that it was the last time that they sold, because a lot of times they could either be buying that forever home, or just that kind of like it's been a while since they bought one, like probably pre-babies, like when they're just starting their family. And a lot of times they know the value of their home, even if it's from like tax records, they've looked on Zillow. You rarely go and they're like, I mean, it does happen, but more often than not, it's not like I have no idea. I think that the skills that you need to have is, how do I help somebody? How can I efficiently make it to help them save time? And also I can know renovation costs, so that if I go and talk to them, I have an idea of what it would cost to change something, fix something up, repair something, either in the house they have to sell or in the house they want to buy. So it goes on. I think we spend a lot of time doing these, and they're kind of cool, like some of their beliefs or their critical issues, what they need. And so again, just kind of, how do you build rapport? And by talking about those things, you'll find it's like you win all day long. So it's not even, I'm going to help you find a house. It could just be some critical issues like, are you able to, buy before you sell your home? That's the best question I get the most often. When I ask it, they'll say, I don't know. I think so, but I'm not really sure. But it's hard to ask that question, but that's like a professional or a pro would ask that. Hey, are you familiar with the market and what's happening? Yeah, it's a super hot market, right? Well, it is in below 250. However, your house is 350. So that market is a little bit different. It's not quite what you're seeing. I mean, it's just sometimes, again, kind of clarifying that the timing. So a lot of times they don't understand how it's all going to work. And most people today, especially, they'll just stay in their home because they're so busy when they enter in, and it's like, I don't know if we're going to find the house that we want. I don't know how we can get this house ready. I don't know how we can, I don't even know how it works. Like, it's just too much. And so they just continually look, and maybe if this like one house that really probably will never come up, but if it does, then that will be the ticket for us to do something. And I think just, again, another way you can build rapport, those critical issues are, I have one this Friday, a past client, I said, I'll tell you what, let's just start with, I'm going to come out to your house on Friday and let's do a walkthrough, because I'm sure you have some questions about, you know, we all live in our houses differently than when it comes time to selling. So let's do a walkthrough and just see what it would take. Any big projects, we're not going to get into staging or anything else. We're just going to think about, like, what would you have to do in order to get your house on the market? Because in their minds, I guarantee you, it's always like much bigger than it usually is. You know, because they're thinking they know that house way more intimately than you. And so just by starting with that is usually a huge win. What do you think, Petra, Sam, and Sherry? Anything you want to add in a buyer presentation or something?
Sure. I had a listen with people that were this week, and they're deciding between selling or selling it. And from selling to the next home, and they really didn't. So we talked about some options there. But it was very helpful. They had a very elaborate remodel plan that they had for how much they had done or what all had gone on in their current house. The market, because that was something they told me on the phone, was we don't know whether we want to remodel or sell. So it became clear that their home is ready. 150,000 model.
Okay, it was okay for a little bit. I was getting the gist of it, but I think the last like 30 seconds, and now you're completely.
Oh, sorry.
Where are you going? Timbuktu?
From
I don't even know still.
Don't.
It's just frozen.
Mhm.
All right. We're cutting her off.
She's gone, I think, anyway.
Okay. So I think when you get a Sam or Sherry on the phone, it's that like luxury experience or service where it's like efficient, you have answers, you have a plan. They want to feel like they're the only client, and they kind of want that support or hand holding. And it is different when you get on the phone with someone like a Zillow or then like a first time buyer, right? Because first time buyers are just like, oh, I just want to see this house, and we don't really know what we're doing, but we're super excited, and they don't even know what they don't know. So again,
Right.
I think just to have success, it's one of those things is to study that. There's some documents to use, but I think we're going to go through it again this year, but I think it's just that ability to convert, and the ones that it's the best to have some of those along with some first time home buyers, but
Right.
I think just by not, like you said, what do I have? Well, I can show you houses. Well, great. So can everybody else. I can sign you up by a representation. Great. So can everyone else. It's like when you speak to these other things, so many people don't, unless you are a top producing agent and you've been through it enough that you're experienced. But if you can speak to these things, it really helps you kind of win those appointments more often than not. So, it's a good thing. So like when you talked about, even, I know it's like a pre-qual phone call, but one of the things that we came up with is, when you basically, if they called in, you get past what they want to see. If you said, hey, could I ask you a few more questions? I'm just curious, like before we meet, like what kind of person are you? Are you like tech savvy, or are you more still paper person? Like that is like a super personal thing that feels really cool, because these people grew up, not the 30-year-olds, but when you get towards the middle to the end, right? Where it's like they lived in both worlds. So by
Right.
asking that just is really that customization, and it keeps it a little bit different. So if they say tech, then you can offer like a web meeting. But if they say paper and you said, hey, I'd love to get on Zoom with you. I know you guys are busy, but let's hop on and do an online meeting. You're probably going to send them over the edge, because that just stressed them out, because now it's one more thing they have to do.
Yeah.
It's also to say, I'm sure it's important. I mean, do you have a home to sell? And again, this may be at a consult or at a meeting. Is that part of getting that current home sold, part of finding that next house, or designing a plan to accomplish that? Or like Petra was saying, maybe you're thinking about renovating and maybe you want to see what the two options look like. I always love using TV and real life examples. Like, maybe we need to have kind of a love it or listing type of meeting, and then they're like, yeah, that's what we want. Because I mean, it just paints a picture in their head of like, that's what we want, is someone to come in like that show
Right.
that tells us like, here's what you can do and here's what the cost is, or here's what we could do, and then help you make the decision.
Yep.
Are you in a better place, Petra?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, tell
Okay.
us. Okay, so go ahead.
All right. So the appointment was them deciding to renovate or sell. And
Yep.
even though I came in pretty blind as to knowing what their house was, I had researched what the limits of their neighborhood were.
Yeah.
And being in the middle of a big remodel ourselves, they were talking about like, well, we might move our kitchen and exchange it with the dining room, and then build out like 10 to 15 feet on the back of our house into new areas. And I'm like, wow, that sounds like a really big remodel. So then when I saw their basement and it's beautiful, I'm like, I think that we can already sell your home for the top of what your market can handle.
Mhm.
So if you invest 100, 150, I don't know, if it was me, I would feel uncomfortable digging in deeper here. I'd rather see you if you're going to be in 6, 7, 800,000, I'd rather you be in a neighborhood of homes like that rather than here. And
Yeah.
the husband seemed to be tracking right with me. The wife is obviously more attached to the house. So she said, and it was a good question. She said, our home, they live in a home from the late 70s. So she said, I know in some communities like Edina, people renovate older homes and they put a lot of money in them and change them, but it's good and the house is open value and everybody's happy. Why can't we do that here? And again, I had, it's not a neighborhood I was previously familiar with, but there's all these little lakes, this little neighborhood in Egan. So there's all these little lakefront properties or little pondfront properties, however you want to define it. But I drove through the neighborhood for just 5 minutes before my listing appointment to just see what it looked like, just from a drive-by perspective. And as you enter the neighborhood, there's a bunch of twin homes.
Mhm.
And even just like, not, you turn a corner before you get to their home and it's all single family homes, but they're like, 8 houses away from twin homes. So I said, I think you're limited because of not necessarily the age or some of the property in your neighborhood, but I think twin homes are typically seen as like a lower grade of property. And so I think those twin homes are always going to hold this neighborhood back. So I just said maybe you're ahead of your time, but I think the twin homes are going to hold you back. And the husband seemed like, yep. And she was like, okay.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is just knowing the market and being able to have those conversations. And ultimately, what is the most scary thing for a human being to do, and what causes the most rift, is to give doubt, right? I mean, so if you plant a seed of doubt, and doubt meaning because it's true, we're not trying to sell people, like Petra's not trying to get them to leave. But when they have those private conversations and you really start thinking about what you're going to do, I always say that too. It's like, hey, and if you want to be the first one in the neighborhood to try it and be like Edina and put 150,000 in your house, can I guarantee that nobody is going to buy it? No, maybe someone will, but I'm just curious, like, do you want to test it? Like, do you want to be the first person to try it?
Is that a risk you're willing to take? Yep.
Is that a risk you're willing to take? Because if you are, cool, I support it. I mean, we all make decisions in our life. It's your decision. Yep. It's your life. I'm just here to offer my advice and my experience. Totally. And every time you say that like just elevates it, because it's like, I'm not saying no. I'm giving you information and you make the decision. But when they have those conversations, it's going to be like, she'll come around, right? She's just got to go
Oh, yeah.
through the
Because
process
who
of
wants
like
to risk that much money?
money. Unless you have that much money, I don't know. And then you love it so much, you don't care, you know? And that's what I say. Sometimes people do that. Like I had some friends that like tore down a $400,000 house to build a $7 million house in a neighborhood of whatever. And we had the conversation, but to them, they were like, yeah, we're going to be here for a long time and we'll be the first. And there at least is a couple $1 million homes. It's a big property and maybe other people will follow suit, but we want to live in, and they talked to their financial planner that they could take a huge loss in the future and that was okay. So yeah, once in a while you get a situation where it's like, good for you guys. I wouldn't do it myself, but I don't know. I guess I don't have that much money to lose. Like, you know, to be like, ooh, yeah. So,
but yeah, if they decide to go with selling, which I think as we left, they're like, well, we're enjoying exploring this with you. Like, we'll be in touch. And that house is worth probably $350 and they have $200,000 of equity. And they've been looking online. That was their other question. We've been looking online at Zillow at properties we think we'd be interested in, but we're not seeing anything that really could meet our needs for like less than like $650. And I just, that's a big price point for me, but I just remain neutral. I'm like, okay, well, if you could find the right home, like what would you be comfortable paying for the right home? And they were like, well, we could, up to 8. So, and then they were like, well, do you think we can find anything? And their criteria are like, we want to stay in the same school district, but we want 5 bedrooms and a 3-car garage. Like their criteria aren't nutso. I'm like, yes, I think that we can find that within $800,000 in Eagan.
And then Peter finds out you can't. No.
No. They weren't that limited.
Yeah.
No, they can. So I don't know. So it was a good. It's a deal that will be good for me and that I don't do a lot of. But I felt I was on a call with Marcia this morning. It's something that would have scared the bejeebers out of me 3 or 4 years ago. But I am totally confident that I can help them sell that house and buy the next one, even though their price points, that especially that buy side price point is big for me. But I know that it works the same as other things, and
Yeah, and you care, and you'll do the research, and you'll help them make the right decision. And you've got people who have sold houses in those price ranges that you can ask and bounce and collaborate with, and make sure that what you're thinking. I mean, Marcia and I do that all the time, or Marcia's done that for years. Is like, you look at this, what do you think? This is what these people want to do, and absolutely, that's awesome. Good for you for taking that step into like just being uncomfortable. Scary. It's like I had a buyer's agent, one of my very first ones, and she sold a house and she was like, it's awesome and I can't believe it's been on the market. And I looked at it and I worked that price range more, and I was like, ooh, it's because it's overpriced. But to someone who doesn't work it, it was like the most amazing thing ever, right? I mean, it was like, this is a great house. And I was like, okay, well, it all works out. Like in the end, I mean, basic economics is a house is worth, right? If you put it on an open market with someone who's willing to pay for it. So I'll be somebody else. But yeah, that's awesome. Okay, single Steve and independent Izzy, or who do you feel like you talk to the most? Like when you pick up the phone, when you don't know them, who do you think is more in your life? Like, Matt, who do you think is who's in your RP in your sphere, and then who's who have you been talking to the most?
In my sphere is probably more the Sam and Sherry savvy kind of, people about my age, kind of in the same position life. Kids are maybe not super young or at least at school, things like that. As far as who I talk to more, probably singles. Are those the first time? Kind of not married.
Steve, no. Well, single. Nikki. So if it's single, but there's Nick and Nikki nesting, where it's like 2 people, but they're like maybe going to start a family, maybe just starting out together, right? They're going to go like nest in a house.
Yeah. I guess I would say I probably talk to more like that overall. Yeah.
Not a lot of single Steve, Metro Mitch, independent Izzy, not a lot of single people.
My first deal was kind of that. My very first one was just a single young girl, got a good job and, wasn't thinking about a family or anything else, doesn't have, anything like that.
Not
on
waiting
her
for a
agenda.
man.
No, I mean, she said it several times as we're looking like about not having kids in the house or things like that. I'm like, just like, she's not in that mindset at all. But other than that, I would think she's maybe more of a one-off compared to the rest of what I've talked to. That's not the norm. So probably the other two, the Nick and Nikki or Sam and Sherry is what I've seen most. Yeah.
How about you, Petra?
I think on the listing side, it's the Sam and Sherry savvy, and then also I would say whatever we're calling the generation past that.
Nick and Nikki. No, past.
No,
Oh,
I'm talking about the
past that.
downsizers.
Yeah. What's their names? Nick
I don't
and
know.
Nikki, Sam and Sherry. Dang it. Okay.
So in listings, I'm seeing more of that because I'm established enough in my sphere friend group, my own age, that they're not always moving, but I get either through my parents or John's parents or through my friends' parents, I'm having opportunities with that generation that's trying to figure out their downsize move. And then on the buyers, it's, I would say, a range of single people or younger couples, mostly. I mean, I think that's the internet. You're most likely on the internet leads, I think, to get someone who doesn't already have a home. So it's some version of a first-time home buyer, usually.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've seen all kinds on that.
Yeah, and I know we've spent a lot of time on that. So I mean, as a group, but the biggest thing online is, they just are excited. They want someone to be excited with them. They have questions. They probably just want to go see a house. And then, I think it's just following that cadence and all the Zillow stuff we've talked about, which is true, is building rapport, answering questions, knowing the market, knowing what's out there, then figuring out what they need, kind of repeating it back, critical, like it sounds like if we could find this, that would be a win. Here's how I can help you. This is what we do. Let's sit down, like we talked about, have a buyer consult. And I do a lot with the internet leads and younger people online. I do so many like online consults in the evening and at work, just because after work for them, because it's easy. And I think I like it because I like to be at home. And I think they like it because if we're going to go out and spend our time or their free time looking at houses, it's like, hey, you know what? Like when you get home tonight after dinner on the couch, let's just hop online. And how would you like to we'll just answer any questions you have, do kind of brief overview of the process, make a plan. And that way we can just go out and continue looking at houses. And that's like a huge win and a huge yes, because then they're like, yeah, sure. It's like you're their TV for the night. And then when they have that next free time, you're not stopping them and putting that roadblock into seeing houses, but yet you're still able to. And again, like Matt, go through, like, I want to go through this paperwork with you, and it's not really fun. And I can't believe how many times they just sign it anyways, or like, just send it to us. But at least I feel like I did my due diligence, went through it, or I'm like, okay, we got that out of the way. We can go out and look at houses, and then I'll send it to you. And, at that point you will be expected to sign. Like, okay. So,
yep.
Give me 1 second. Have either of you spent much time like looking at in the book, like all the Sam and Sherry's or Nick and Nikki, or kind of some of those needs, or to see like, yeah, I'm in agreement with that? Or
I read through most of them. Yeah, and I kind of was looking at them again this morning, just reviewing.
Any like takeaways or anything, any ahas where you're like, oh yeah?
No, I think it's just most of that pretty much hits right on, at least at what I've experienced. It's yeah.
I'm gonna share. So I'm gonna do. Okay. You can see my screen, right? Our buyer book.
Yep.
Okay. So one of the things, I'm going to back this up, I guess, one more time, is that, so typically it starts on the phone, right? We have a phone call. We get kind of an idea. We start building rapport, whatever the next step is going to be. Maybe we don't get to talk to them. Maybe we just know we're going to meet them at a house. But that's kind of the first step. So number one is just building rapport appropriate to the outcome, meaning we want to show up and we want to be the professional. We want to be the one who's knowledgeable. We want them to know that and believe that we are not here to sell them, and we're going to be the one to get it done, and that we have the knowledge to get them to where they need to go, and the experience and the trust. It was really all it is. I mean, most of them, 67%, work with the first person they meet with. So I think that's pretty good odds. You have to kind of really botch it or be like that guy in the open house that just asked to sign up front or do something to get someone to really just be like, break rapport with them.
Right.
So usually, I should have just, I'm going to just stop for a minute because I think it's weird to stare to scream. But so once we build rapport, then typically what I do is there's either one or two things, and it really depends on how excited they are. A lot of times people just feel like they don't know what to expect. So whether it's a seller or a buyer, I've always had great luck just setting an agenda. So it goes something like this. Is for the way I like to do it is I'll say, so we built rapport, done. That here's what I want to do. I just want to tell you a little bit, have an opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself or my team. And then what we're going to do is, and I want to walk you through the process. From that, you're going to have questions. If you have any additional questions, we'll answer them. We have to go through some paperwork, and then we're going to make a plan for what would be next. How does that sound? Okay, they're usually like, yep, that's great. All right, what did you want to accomplish today? Is there anything else that you wanted to accomplish? Nope, that's it. Okay, great. So then what I'm going to do is, no, wait, I said that. I'm going to scratch it. I'm going to go back. But sometimes what I'll do is just say, okay, no, I'm going to do this. Yeah, never mind. So I go like this. This is what I say. Obviously, it came out.
I think that's a good idea to ask at the beginning what questions that they want answered. So you know right away whether it was already in your plan or not and how it fits so that you can come back to it.
Right.
And by the time you've talked with them for an hour, they might forget what their original questions were.
Yes, absolutely. And it makes it just feel like when we get to the end and I ask for a close, like I know I've done everything. I mean, I'm going to ask again, but just by setting that, it's like, when we're in stressful situations, it's really basic, but we just have to set that like expectation of like, oh, what are we here to do? This is what we're here to do. Is that what you came in to do? Is that what you wanted to do? Yeah, that's what we wanted to do. Great, let's do it. So then it's like when you ask for yeses or when you say, here's what's next, they're like, okay, yeah, well, we did that and we wanted to do that and this is what's next. So yes, it's just psychology tips, tricks. But all right, so I start here and I say, again, I mean, we can get into this a little bit more, but this is just some things that we do differently. Now this is like a sidebar. Like there's all these things. I don't go through them all. Everyone should pick their handful of favorites. But I always say, one of the things I'm excited about is, we do a team approach. I think that's really great that we've got people that can help you. There's always someone available. So you don't ever have to worry if, you need to see a house or you want to see something, there's someone who can help you. Again, one of the things is pressure free. We want to make sure that you find the house that's right for you and that you feel good about your decision. We're watching daily for houses that come on the market. We've got a list of, usually by spring too, and it rolls around, and this is maybe true for Rochester, I'll say, right now we've got a list of 20 houses that are coming on the market. So sometimes we have access before others. And so we do in our office. Yeah, I'm really proud of the fact that we're the #1 rated Zillow team. And I think that speaks more than probably, what I would say myself is just that, other people really are happy with their experience in buying or selling a home. So this is kind of what the team looks like. This is a team. And I'll say, like in this example, I would say, I wanted to get, yours isn't on here yet, Petra, is it? I was trying to pull up yours, but I got.
Mine has everybody in Rochester, I think, plus me.
I thought it says TC and it's not the right one. Okay, so I'm going to use this one just because I'll say, oh, this looks overwhelming, but don't worry. Here's me. And then they usually like, wow, that doesn't even look like you anymore. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? That's longer hair, lighter, no glasses, but no, I'm just kidding. But I say, then this is old, guys. Here's Nick. This is not Nick, but here's Nick.
Mhm.
And Nick, you're going to talk to because he's going to make sure that once we get a contract, everything from that time till closing, he's just going to make sure you're on track and everything's getting done. Other than that, don't worry. The rest of these people you probably never talk to, unless I can't, show you a house or for some reason, we get help from somebody else. This is just kind of where we give back and some of our awards if that's important. But this is kind of where I want to start. This is a great place for us to start is in the home buying process. So this is what we're doing right now is we're sitting down and we're kind of doing an initial interview. You're making sure I'm not crazy. Honestly, I'm making sure you're not crazy. And then usually they laugh because I'm like, yep, we'll just make sure that we're going to be able to work together. You guys are ahead of the curve because you've already gone in and obtained your pre-approval. A lot of times this is where people start is that's like kind of one of the first steps, just so you know what you can afford and what you're comfortable having your monthly payment to be. Once we know that number, we're going to go out and start looking at houses. That's kind of what you guys have been doing. You've been going to open houses. You called today because you want to go out and see 123 Banana Street. So we're going to take a look at that. When the time comes, and it may be today, but when you find that house, at that point, when you want to buy it, you're going to write an offer. All offers have to be in writing. It's paperwork that we fill out. It's not verbal. We don't do it online. We actually write it out. At that time, you're going to give earnest money. And earnest money, if you think about it, a lot of people think about it kind of like a down payment. Usually, typically, it's like 1.5%. So you're looking at a $300,000 house. So in this case, might be like, I don't know, at least 3,000, 3,000 to 5,000. It is part payments for the house. The reason is that if for some reason you just decided you changed your mind, not because of the home inspection, not because of anything else, but you just flaked. You're just like, we changed our mind. We don't want to buy it anymore. The seller has the right to keep that as damages, or instead they could take it to court. Most sellers will just choose to keep it. But that's what that is just to say, we're serious about buying the home and here's some money in case we kind of flake on you. Then we're going to negotiate the offer. And once it's signed and delivered, at least between the agents, is when it becomes a binding agreement. So once you have that, usually the next step is a home inspection. And so I'm writing on this, like I write that earnest money, that 1 to 1.5%. I'm sure, Matt, you've seen that, right? Everyone does that.
Yep.
And then it'll be like, okay, now they do a home inspection. There's all types of inspections, radon, their visual inspection, but typically most people, it's like $350 to, $500. After that, once you're done with that, we're still moving forward. You're going to work with your mortgage company and they're going to make sure they're going to send everything through their underwriting process so they can make sure they give you the loan. There's going to be appraisal on the house to make sure that the money that they're borrowing you, that asset, the house is worth it. They're going to verify all your information, and then you'll get final loan approval. Kind of right behind it or at the same time as the title company is doing title work. They're making sure that you're the only owner. You're going to be the only owner of the home, that there's nobody else who has rights to it. And then you're going to have closing. And in Minnesota, we just get to move in right after. So, and sometimes, right, like when there's pauses, there's people who ask questions as you go along, or at the end, it's like, what kind of questions do you have? And this is the start of kind of finding out a little bit about them. And when we think about the 5-step sales process, so it's rapport. And the second one actually is a needs analysis. So you could sit down and start asking about what they want. And the reason why I chose to do this differently and kind of go this route is when you get into that, like, what are you looking for? Oh, I want 3-bedroom, 3-bath. Tell me more. Tell me more. I feel like you're setting the stage for really being an order taker, and you're just kind of like writing everything down, and it's hard to like get things back on track and back to the kind of this rhythm and cadence of like a process and professional, and this is what we're doing and this is the plan. So although I'm breaking that, I still feel like this to me is part of building rapport. I didn't get into how we do it differently. I didn't go on about how I could help them. I just said a couple things just to kind of basically do an introduction. And then this page, and why everyone loves it so much, is this is where we really start to build rapport, because this is where they see us as the expert. We have knowledge, we know the process, and we can take them through it. And So then it'll say like, yep, here's, Anna, you can get a second opinion if you haven't been in. I know you have, but look, you can get $100. You can do it online, super simple. And, just what I want to say before we get into it is it's really important that, again, we want to give that 5-star promise. We've been reviewed over almost 500 times now in Zillow. And so we just want to make sure that when you get done with this, you have a great experience. And that's one of the reasons why, it was important for us to meet today. So now, like I said, it's just a little bit about us, but the next thing is I said, we're going to just do some paperwork. So I have to, Minnesota law requires early in any relationship, I have to disclose with you how real estate people work, right? So now it's a perfect transition to get out the form, and I'll say, as you can see, this is just a disclosure. This is not representation, but the way that this can work is we can represent the seller, which means we're working in their best interest on their behalf. We can represent you as a buyer, which means we're working in your best interest and negotiate on your behalf. There's dual agency, and this is where I usually segue into a story, and I'll say, okay, here's, let me describe it this way. This is usually really easy. So let's say we're gonna get in the car right after we get done talking today, and we're gonna go out and look at houses. And well, we haven't signed anything, right? And they're like, yep, okay. So right now I don't represent anybody. So the first house we pull up to is a RE/MAX listing, and we're not working together yet. So when we walk in that house, I represent the seller, which means, I'm trying to get the highest price, and anything you say, I have to tell the seller because we represent them. Okay, clear. All right, now we walk into a Coldwell Banker house or Keller Williams. And I work at RE/MAX, so I don't represent them as a seller, and I don't represent you as a buyer. So then I'm a facilitator, which means I just owe you confidentiality. I mean, that makes no sense for me to call another company and say, hey, guess what? Alyssa and Quentin really like this house and they'll pay full price. So I can give you confidentiality. So if, again, let's say today we decide to work together and I represent you as a buyer. Now we go into the Coldwell Banker Keller Williams house. I'm there to act in your best interest and negotiate on your behalf. Now let's say we go back to that RE/MAX house. At that point in that house, RE/MAX now represents you as a buyer and they represent the seller. So we can't work to the detriment of either party. And that's where your protection, so that if a house was $300,000 and I knew you'd pay $300,000, and even if I told the other agent, I mean, they can't tell the seller because that hurts you and helps them. On the same behalf, let's say I heard someone in the hallway, and why this is still in existence is, heard someone in the hallway and their seller is willing to take $275,000. Well, if I told you that, because I heard it, it hurts them and helps you. So basically we become like a mediator. Any questions? Usually it's like no, right? Because that's even a lot. Then it's like the disclosure, and then I usually go through, and then I just want to go through a little bit about what it looks like to be represented, and I want to go through the contract with you. Since neither one of you have heard mine, I'm going to go through it like how I would, because it's good. So I'll say, all right, so what we do is we put your names here at the top. You're going to give RE/MAX results. I work on behalf of RE/MAX results, but I'm going to help or assist you in negotiating purchase or option to purchase a property with price and terms acceptable to you. And it starts today, or it starts in a week, or it's going to start after we look at houses, whatever. And you said, on the phone, you wanted to be in by June, so we could just put it through July just in case things, change or whatever. It is, and then it says it may be canceled by a written mutual agreement of the parties or once we close on a property. So my obligation is to make a reasonable effort to locate a property acceptable to you with price and terms acceptable. Your obligation to me is work with me to buy a home, provide relevant and accurate financial information that you're able to buy. You already did that. You showed me your pre-approval letter. So, all right, after that, it says how we get paid. So here's how we get paid. I'm gonna kind of skip around, but no, 27, the retainer fee is 0, so it doesn't really apply. The way that we get paid is there's a broker commission of $450 that goes to RE/MAX plus 3% of the purchase price. Now let's just skip A and B for a minute, go down to 40. It says we're authorized to negotiate and receive compensation paid by the seller or broker representing the seller as long as we tell you in writing before you make an offer. Any compensation that we receive shall reduce anything that you owe. So what that means is, and I'm going to pull it up, I'm just going to show you here, and I usually show on the MLS like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. So 95% of the time, you're paying the $450 as part of your closing costs, or it'll usually get paid at closing. Otherwise, it'll be paid for by the seller. Any questions? Because that's usually the most important thing, is just, understanding how it all works. So, no.
Nope, sounds good.
All right, so then I'll go up and say, all right, so just the A and B, I want to go back to that. It just says that that you still, if you agree to purchase a property before the expiration date of this contract, even if you don't use our services, you may still have to pay. And then it also talks about, this is for our protection. If we went out and looked at houses and then you said mysteriously said you didn't want to work with me anymore, I can give you a list of like the 5 houses that we looked at and say, hey, that's great, but if you buy any of these 5 or this one in the next 6 months, I'm still going to get compensated. And that's just so we don't get cut out. Oh yeah, I get that. So done. Any questions before we turn the page? No. All right. It also says, you understand, you don't have to pay anything if you don't buy anything. So sometimes, we get to work for free. Says this is just a caution. This happens a lot. And I think this happens when people don't realize what they sign. And it just says that if we we agree to work together and I'm representing you, and you go to an open house this weekend and you see a house you really like, you want to call me, for any questions or to write up an offer. So I think why this is in here is a lot of times people don't understand what they signed. And then let's say, you meet with someone, you go out and look at an open house, you love it. The agent says, I can write it up for you. You say, great. I call you Monday and I say, hey, Alyssa and Quentin, what did you think? Are you guys ready to look at houses this week? And you're like, oh, thanks for meeting with us, but we found a house we liked this weekend and we went ahead and bought it. And then I can say, well, you are under contract with me, so you owe me money too, and you can end up owing 2 agents money. And then, so it's important, like you're hiring me at this point, so you want to call me. Okay. All right, looking for a residential property. You understand you have to close the loan, so you have to go to closing. We talked about that as part of the process. You already met with the lender, so you know that there's closing costs that happen. We can help you arrange for that, or you could do that. And they sign initial. This is usually where they start initialing. This is your gauge. They're like, oh, just initial here. And I'll say like, would you like us to do that? Or, is that something, somebody? And they're like, oh yeah, you can do that. No, we initial here. And then it's like, yeah. And then you just know you're good. You keep going. But if it's like, there's a pause, then that like, they're going to want to review it, or something's going to like, not 100% sold. All right. You understand, like if we were talking about closing costs, this FRIPTA, we're not going to get into this today. A lot of this is boilerplate. It just says that if the seller's FRIPTA, there's taxes for an investment, real property act tax act. We recommend you get a home inspection, or there's warranties out there. We talked about dual agency. This is saying you agree to it. I may be working with other buyers looking for the same thing that you are. RE/MAX may have represented someone in the past. Everything, the fiduciary duties, terminate and successful closings except for confidentiality. I always owe you that. There's a website and a phone number. You can see if there's any predatory offenders that live in the neighborhood. You're okay with electronic signatures. I can phone, fax, or email you because the do not call registry. Whew. All right, that's a lot. And the last page is the signature. Any questions? No? Great. If I were to do this and we were to, work together, would you feel comfortable signing this? Right? Yes, no, blah, blah, whatever. All right. And then after that is like, all right, let's have some fun. No, I told you all the painful stuff is done. We've got questions answered. We got through the paperwork. Now let's talk about like the plan and kind of what's next. So, and then it's like fun to get into and I think why you can get away with not doing that needs analysis is because you kind of did a baby one on the phone or at some point in like meeting with them. So this is more like, all right, let's really get the guts of like, here's what you're looking for. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go out and look at houses. Like some of the little things I always say are, one of the things that's important is I just want to pick 5 houses, and I want to pick in the neighborhood you live in, but let's look at some different floor plans. I mean, that's an option when they don't have a bunch, right? So you could say, I think it'd be helpful for us for learning what you really like, just to kind of see what else is out there and what your options are. You could say, how many houses do you have that you like? How many favorites? Oh, we have like 10. Great. We're going to break them into groups. Like, let's start with your favorite, your most favorite. Let's pick your top 4 or 5. I'm such a big believer on 5 to 6 max. Like I'll fit 6 in if it's in the same area, but I really just feel like, and I'll tell people, it blurs together. You can't keep them straight. There's like fatigue. So let's just pick the ones that we make sure we want to see. And then, you know, things are going to continue to come on the market. So we're either always going to see new stuff and we'll never get to these, or maybe we work our way down the list, or maybe by seeing some of these, we'll eliminate some of these based on kind of some recommendation advice I can give. So it's usually like, and then it's always, so many people don't do this on the team, is like always what's next and setting it up. So what's next? Okay, you have your pre-approval. You said you're going to talk to Anna or get a second opinion. I'm going to give her your information. Let's get out our calendars and let's pick a day, even if it's in 2 weeks from now, or if it's this week, depending on their urgency, and get something on the calendar so that we can go out and take a look at some of these houses. Then I'll tell you what it's going to look like. In the meantime, we're going to sign you up with the portal. I want you to blah, 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 email me, star, heart, whatever it is. I don't remember anymore. All your favorites. I'll pick 5. You tell me which ones you really want to see. And that's where we're going to start. Sound good? Anything else? And at that point, they're like, I mean, whoo, and they're like, no, it's great, awesome. But then it's like, you just took them out of the market, because now, whether you got them to sign it or not, they know a plan, they know what's next, and it's already set up for them. And it's always just what's next, what's next, what's next, and getting them to goal. That kind of what you've seen, or different, same?
Yeah.
Similar to what I've seen. Yep.
Okay. So what have been, what have you seen works, or what have been like any, I'll ask Matt first and Petra, any other tips, tricks, kind of things that you want to say about buyer presentation?
I like just the first thing right off the top, not going into the needs analysis right away. I think that the way that you said it makes a lot more sense. That's kind of the way, because that's the way it's written out and the way that I've kind of practiced it. But you're right, it is kind of jarring to then get things back on track to, oh wait, we got to do this first. Because at that point, if you start talking about something and they're kind of getting excited about maybe looking at some things, or, you know, they want to do that, oh, wait a second, not that fast, you know. So I think that's just a good one right there. It makes more sense to kind of, you know, you probably already have a mini idea of what they want, you know, from talking to them before. So you can get to the guts of it more when you start setting up the search or really making a plan for what's next. Otherwise, I mean, I like.
Yeah, because that's where they want to be, and that's fun. And like you said, trying to get, it's like giving a kid candy and then trying to get them to sit down and do a puzzle with you. It's like, what? No, I want to like run around like, wow, let's play dance party. But I think the other thing is it establishes control, and I think that's one thing over the course of 20 years I got really good at is like I am in control. Like meaning like I am that professional. I'm the one ruling the expectations of how this is going to go down. I'm not here to let you all of a sudden, and again, not that they're not, we say like we're guiding them, they feel that, but it's not also like, oh, like, what do you want in a house? Great. Okay. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And now you just became their Bobo, like pretty much like, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So otherwise overall, I mean, it was, you know, short and sweet and to the point, and I don't know, like I said, some buyers, you just kind of have to gauge them. I think if they're like, we got this, we know. The kid that I wrote an offer with on Sunday, he literally is like, unless I have to sign, I don't care. I don't care what it says. Just tell me where to sign. And so I mean, just really briefly, like, just because I have to do my job, you know, tell you this, but, you know, not go too much into it. If you have questions or you want to know more, let me know. And his mother-in-law was here, and so she asked questions, but he was literally, he was just like, I don't care. Just tell me where to sign. And that's, hey, it's nice to have ones like that you don't have to, you know, sell them on anything or convince them or explain, you know, too much.
Okay, so then what's in those situations, because they happen more often than not, what do you feel like, what do you minimally have to cover? What do you feel like in order to cover your own CYA, what do you feel like you need to say?
Well, the different types of agency, just right off the top. So once you've kind of got that, I mean, just real briefly, like, I mean, you did it in like 2 sentences or 1 sentence each one. I mean, that's plenty in that case. And then how we're getting paid, the terms of the contract, you know, just hitting those highlights. It's going to last for this long. It ends when we close. It expires, or if we mutually decide to end it. how we're getting paid, that we're going to negotiate with seller, no fee, and $4.99. Just hitting those main things, and then going over the duties. What I owe you, I would just briefly hit those still, and then that's about it. I mean, the other things, I would say, just like you did, the foreign investor, we don't need to talk about that. If it comes up, we can go into that. Find out if there's a predator in your neighborhood, go look it up. But just really brief, one sentence on any of those things, kind of just to hit them up. That's about it.
I think when I go through it, and somebody's like that and they don't really care, at least this is my minimum is, okay, so when you sign this, we're agreeing to work together to buy a house. So you need to call me, and basically you're okay with dual agency, which means that if it's a RE/MAX listing, we represent both sides. That's like literally it. And there's $450 at closing that, is going to come out of your pocket. I wouldn't even get into 3% unless they ask it. But if you're somebody who's just like, sign, I don't care, then that's the things that always come up as a surprise. Or I just want to make sure, like, okay, we can do it this way, but number one, you're signing up with me, so just know that. And number two is there's going to be $450 at closing, because just like you said, they get to closing like, what is this? I didn't know this was here. You said that, whatever. And basically that, I don't even know the dual agency, but if you do agency because that's required, then if I just, like you talk about the agency, you're committed to me, and there's $450 that's going to show up, and I don't want you to freak out when it does. Like, that's basically it.
Right. Yep.
Okay, Petra.
I usually talk in the first meeting also about radon and about arbitration, just so that if we do get quickly into offers and the purchase agreement conversation, that they've had time to think about whether they want to get radon and how they want to answer arbitration. Because I feel like that gets me out of being, they can never make me advise them, but I feel like when I've prepared them that this is the decision they're going to have to make later, it gives them time to assess among friends and family and circle and research how they want to answer, so that they're not kind of annoyed, like, why are you bringing this up now?
Yes, I totally agree with that. Completely, like you said, that is post kind of my world of meeting with buyers, where arbitration became kind of more of a bigger thing. But yes, I've heard people do that, and I think it's excellent to say, hey, another thing, or even if you, just to get it out of the way.
Form, and I explain, like, you're asking that you answer it, then I, like, in a can't tell you what to do, and now you can go research it in advance if you're that.
Yes.
And with radon, I usually show them the 2 pages, and then they'll show up at the end of seller's disclosures and talk about how radon is a disclosure requirement, not a test requirement for sellers, and that they have the choice of doing it in their inspection or not. And then how, if they don't do it but find it later, I can't do anything about that. But if they find it during their inspection, I can probably negotiate with system. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I understand, like, the radon, and I also, like, if I'm sitting there and we talk about the home inspection, I may talk about it. And in Rochester, it's customary where if it doesn't have a mitigation system, everybody does a radon test, and the expectation is if pretty much the seller's going to put it in unless you really lowball them and got some good deal. That's kind of a little bit more of a small town community. So I don't think that in Rochester, I don't probably have to go in it as much, because it's just like this, like, unwritten more that, like, everybody does. But maybe up there it could be different, where it's a good thing.
Not everybody does it up here. I would say maybe only half of the buyers choose to do it. And then,
so it's definitely worth talking about it.
I've definitely had sellers push back and try to get out of it. And so it is a negotiable item, but if they don't do the test, I can't do anything for them.
Yes.
Like, what's radon? Well, you're not going to research so you can understand, but here's the high level.
And then just a couple things I want to point out that we have is, this is kind of, again, it can feel crazy, but on the intranet, we do have a buyer's guide that's there that you can send somebody if you do get somebody who's really detailed, or you kind of want to give this like, I have to give a really short meeting. And even if I say it that way, like, hey, I know time's really important, but I'm going to send you, it's going to break down all the fees and information about the process, seller paid closing costs, has a list of inspectors in there. One of my favorite things in this that a lot of people don't use is it's got like the home search begins. So it talks about like, you know, you want to begin looking at houses about 3 months away from your ideal moving date. You're going to schedule them. I always say this, like, I need to know up to 24 hours in advance so that we can make sure that we get in them. And that was more so that I hated having those like, can we see this today? And it's like, I just had to build rules for myself more than anything to say no.
Yep.
And the same thing, it's like, if you see additional homes that you want, we're going to have to view them at the next appointment. It says in here, we're typically going to spend about 20 minutes per home. And that's, again, just because I get those people and I'm like, no, this isn't my afternoon. And we do have a schedule that we have to stick to. It talks about wearing shoes that you can take off. It talks about kind of like what they're looking at, but there's some really, really great tips, and we update it every year in here that you can give them. And again, we took out some of the financing, or even at a minimum, if you wanted to, you know, we could even have Brianna even break out some of that. And I think it's really great to have that, like, hey, we're going to go out and look at houses and send it to them. You know, I was just thinking, I've got these, I was talking about Alyssa and Quentin, young buyers where they decided that their lease isn't going to be up for a long time. But this is something too that is just good while they're waiting, where they can like get excited and look at it. But that's a tool that's there. So
yeah,
I just wanted to point that out because a lot of people don't know it's a resource, don't know that it's there. And again, it is a lot. So I always set the expectation, like, I can send you, I'm gonna send you something electronically, but it's gonna have every answer in it. And all of these were built. It's, yes, it's for the client, but it's really for your protection and for that like 5-star service of, and that way, if I'm not available or it's at night and you guys are like wondering what's happened, it's a resource. You can pull it up, and I guarantee you, for the most part, the answer will be in there. And then it just took some of that like liability or, you know, responsibility off of me, and they could go in today, especially people are very used to seeking out answers. That's not a weird thing to say, like, here, just put it in a folder. Then if you have a question, it's there. Or if you want to know, or before we go out and look at houses, I want you to take a look at it just for helpful reminders. So bring an umbrella, whatever. Because I'd forget all that stuff always. Then I'd go out with someone for like the 5th time, and they'd say, oh man, like it's raining. And I said, oh gosh, that would have been really awesome if I could have said, like, bring your rain boots or something, right? So, okay. Petra, takeaway from today?
I've seen that Firebox. I'm gonna go look for it. I used the KCM buyer book primarily, but I've canceled that now. So I've been how to replace some of those, because they were good checkpoints for me to talk about certain things. But I bet it's all in there.
Yeah, and we even have one for the Twin Cities. It's even specific. So it took out any Rochester nuances. So it's even there for,
oh, thank goodness,
for you. Yeah. No, but you know, no, that's a really big thing. Like, I really respect that, because it's just weird. Like when there are differences in the market. And so I just think it's exciting that, and if you want to add anybody in it, or if you look through it and you want to kind of, hey, we just could have this and this, Brianna can do that. Absolutely. So yeah, cool. Matt?
Kind of goes along with this buyer book, how you did your buyer presentation, just everything, just setting those expectations up front, I think, for the buyers or sellers, whoever it is that you're working with. That way they know what's next, they know how the process works. You know, you don't have to go into a bunch of detail, but just kind of laying out, you know, what they can expect, you know, is probably a big key to that kind of 5-star service. And because there's not surprises, they're not sitting home, you know, wondering questions that they're maybe not even afraid to ask them, but because it didn't get covered, you know, the book or some of these other resources that are available that they can get them, or just knowing that they can ask, but they at least have an idea of what to expect.
Right.
I think
it's pretty stressful.
Yeah.
And overwhelming. And I think that I really believe that some of these really small nuances that built the business that is what it is today is people felt like, even if they feel like unfairly that they need me, And I think that when I would try to think about like, why do people feel that way? Like even my dad would say, it's so crazy, it drives me crazy. They're always like, well, what would Beth say? Or what do you think Beth would do? And he's like, I don't know what you do with people that they feel that way. And I think what I do is exactly what I said today. It's just setting the expectation and maintaining control. So the next time it comes around, it felt so smooth, like the process, because you're always hopefully like a little bit, just one step. That's all you have to be, is one step ahead, not 6, not 3, 1. But then it just feels that like she just knows, because she just, and that just comes from your presence, and it comes from your confidence, and it comes from, I was reading something and preparing for a talk. I think I said this at team meeting, but knowing everything at a happy birthday level, right? The happy birthday song, right? Like I can look at you guys and I literally could sit right now and recite the agency disclosure and the buyer representation, backwards, forwards, upside down, whatever you want, however I need to do it. And it's at that level is where it just comes across the person, you know, just, we all have to practice our craft, just like an actor or actress. It's a play, it's an experience that we're doing. And then it just feels like that was amazing. I want to do it again, because it just flowed. So yes, cool. Petra, Matt is on vacation in the Wisconsin Dells next week. So we're gonna skip, and then I think I might have to, I don't know what next Friday looks like for everybody. I got to look at mine because I'm in Toronto that next week at the Ontario Remix conference in Brantford on Thursday. So I'll figure out what we're gonna do. And the next week is R4. So we'll finesse it here. I know you guys are getting reps in. I am.
Are you? And then you're doing that thing at Kalahari too in the Dells in like a month
in
or whatever.
March.
In March.
Yes.
Does anybody go to that from here?
I want people to. I want people to, because it's on the 12th and 13th. And so for me, I'm gonna take, like I said, the kids. It's a write-off.
Yeah.
We're gonna all go to the Dells, and it's our Remax Integra thing. I'm excited. I never usually do that. I know I wasn't good, Petra, at the awards thing. I'm not good at saying that. So remind me if I don't, that it would mean a lot. It's cool. I'm the closing keynote speaker of the event. So it would be kind of cool to have some fans or friendly faces to look at in the crowd.
Well, I've thought about it. I know that last year it was actually in February, because it was the time that we were there in the Dells, and some of the people from my old office, a lot of them went out there to it.
Yeah.
You know, really close. And so for both reasons, I thought it would be fun to go if we could get some people, and, you know, like I said, for a few days, and if we bring kids or whatever, it's water park and stuff there. So
yeah.
Good time.
My husband's coming, bringing the kids.
Cool.
Exactly. I think it'll be, the girls will be fun too. And like you said, it's Wisconsin, Minnesota, it's all the Midwest region.
Right.
So it'll be kind of fun.
Yep.
Indiana. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We don't care about those people. Just kidding. All right.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay. Have a good day, guys.
Right. You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.